Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to talk to you about academic probation, what it means, how does that happen, how do students get on academic probation, how it impacts your college career, and most importantly, how to get off of it. And I'm going to end the video with a success story. So if you don't know me, I am Ruth Bomar, your online academic coach. I help students learn to use their mind to reach their academic goals. You can learn anything you need to learn to reach your academic goals. So if you're joining me today live or later on the broadcast, please tell me where you're from, give me a shout out. If you're a student, tell me where you're going to school and what you are studying. If you are a parent, let me know where your son or daughter is going to school and what they're studying. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll try to address those in subsequent videos. So let's get started. So what is academic probation? Academic probation is when your GPA dips below a 2.0. That's all it is. It's just grades. Now, usually if your GPA dips below a 2.0, you'll receive a letter from from the registrar or a department in your university informing you that you are on academic probation and delineating the requirements. The university might have some requirements for you, like you might be required to take a college success course the next semester. You might be required to meet with a mentor or with a coach, or they'll have different requirements for you and different stipulations. So if you're on academic probation, you are on warning. Now, how do you get onto what happens? What causes academic probation? Many times, this is what I see with the students that I work with, many times students start their freshman year and they get involved with sorority or fraternity work, and that takes up a lot of time. And when pledge is over, rush and pledge is over, it's around week 12. Many times it depends on your university, but usually what I see, it's done around week 12. They're finished with all their sorority things, the fraternity demands of time. But by then the semester is 3/4 done and the damage has been done and it's not recuperable. They're not able to salvage their grades for the semester. If you're headed towards drop date, if you're past drop date and you're failing your courses, then you're not able to recover from bad grades, from low grades. So many times, what causes GPA? How do you get there? It is usually poor time management, number one. Number two, many times students will do poorly on exam 1 and then try hard and do poorly on exam 2 and not be able to recuperate, not know what to do to improve their grade. And they just think, well, I've just try harder. But it's not a matter of trying harder. It's a matter of targeting your studying strategies for that task. So if you keep doing the same thing if you failed exam 1 and you do the same thing for exam 2, then your outcome is going to be the same. You've got to change your study habits, your study strategies between exam 1 and exam 2 to have a different outcome in exam 2. So that's how you get into academic probation. Now, how does it impact your college career? Well, chances are you're going to have to retake the courses you failed. And if those courses are in your major, if you maybe you made a D in courses that are in your major, your department might require that you retake courses in your major and earn a B or a C. It depends on your department. Every department has different standards regarding the GPA on your major courses. So you have to find out what the requirements are for your department and what the requirements are for your university. So just because you know the requirements for the university does not necessarily mean that they are the same for your department. The department might set their own requirements that are maybe a higher standard than the university standards for GPA. So let me say that a little clearer. Let me say that again. Let's say, for example, you are a math major and your math department requires that you have a 3.0 in all your math courses and you earn a C. Then you're not going to get credit for that course because you earned a C. You got to earn a B to get credit for that course, if that's their requirements. Not all departments will have that requirement. So you have to find out what your department requirements are for your major courses. Now, courses that are not major courses, whatever the university policies are. Your university policy might be if you make a D in a course, you still get credit for it. So you need to understand, find out what the requirements are for the university and what are the requirements for your department regarding your GPA. How does it impact your college career? You probably have to retake a course either in the summer or add a couple of semesters to your college career. So that might mean you're going to be a 5-year college student. This will in turn impact financial aid. Things to think about. Now, what do I do? Many of my students, they'll start their first semester and they don't do very well. College takes them by surprise, and they're very surprised that whatever they did for high school didn't work. That is the biggest thing I see in my students. They're so surprised that whatever they did for high school isn't working for college, and they feel that the college professors are very unreasonable. That's one thing that happens with my students. So they might do very poorly that first semester, and then they think, okay, I've got it now. Second semester, I'm going to do better. I've learned it. I figured it out. And second semester, they do the same thing, only they do it more. They do more flashcards, or they take more notes. But that's not necessarily what needs to be done to learn the information. So they wind up doing poorly the second semester. So now they have 2 semesters where their grades were poor. And now they're on academic probation. And they'll come see me for that summer to demonstrate to their dean that they can indeed up their grade. And the requirement of academic probation for the dean might require that they retake a academic course over the summer and demonstrate that they can make a better grade. And part of that requirement might be work with an academic coach like me, or hire a tutor to learn content. Or sometimes my students will have a really good first semester because they took lots of introductory courses, and the second semester they're deceived. They think, oh man, it's so easy. I totally got it now. And then the second semester they don't put in as much effort. But it's not enough to bring their GPA down. They're placed on academic probation, so then their first semester sophomore year, then the courses get harder every semester, and they wind up doing poorly. So it accumulates. That's what I'm trying to say here. How does it impact your academic career? It accumulates. Some semesters might be easier than other semesters, depending on what you're taking. So you want to be very strategic on how you plan which courses you're taking. And after you're on academic probation, how do you get off of academic probation? Well, number one, you might need to take one semester where you only take very easy courses so that you can be guaranteed that high B or an A to heal your GPA. What do I do with my students who come to me that are on academic probation? Well, number one, the first thing we do is establish a really good organizational system. So the organizational system you used in high school probably won't be what you need. You need to have an organizational system that applies to your college demands. College life complexity increases significantly when you transition from high school to college. And that is a big paradigm shift for a lot of my students as they transition and figure out, what do I need to do to be successful in college? So number one is a good organizational system. Number two is knowing what's important. How do you know what's important? How do you know what will be on the exam? Well, there's some tricks to the trade here. The first place you can find what's going to be on the exam and what's important is in your syllabus. And the other place is with your professor. So regularly communicating with the professor will help you identify what is significant, what information is salient information that needs to be captured in your memory, in your understanding to do well in an exam. The other thing that I do with my students is establish a really good self-care approach. So self-care includes good sleep, good eating, and working out. Good basic self-care. And this is essential because it positively impacts stress management. If you can manage stress, if you can learn how to positively impact your stress and manage your stress positively, that's going to be reflected in your grades. So stress management will impact your ability to remember information, remember what you studied. Stress management will impact your performance on test dates. So what do I do to help my students? Once they're on academic probation, what do I do to help them get off? Another thing I do is target study strategies to match the demand. You study differently for every course, and you study differently for the types of assignments and the demand of the test itself. The test could be mostly memory, or the test could be analysis. It depends on the course, the professor, and then where you are. Test 1 might be mostly memory, but test 2 could be more analytical questions. This is a discussion you need to have with your professor. So I'm gonna close off today's video with a great success story. I worked with a student for 2 semesters. He was coming to me on academic probation. The first semester I worked with him, he wound up failing another course. And the second semester, he wound up making A's and B's. So what was the difference? His turnaround point, the place where he just turned the corner and changed the direction that he was going in, was when he owned the responsibility of learning. That second semester I worked with him, he had a course where the professor had listed all the review questions and all the review vocabulary in the syllabus, and had asked the students, if you do these review questions and bring them in on the day of the test, I'll give you extra credit. Well, my student said he couldn't ever do that. He didn't believe he could do it because he had really poor handwriting, he had dysgraphia, he had ADHD, he couldn't focus, he couldn't sit long enough to answer all those questions. And so for his first exam, he didn't do it and he failed. Well, by this time, he was in his last semester of academic probation. He was going to be asked to leave the university if he didn't show improvement that semester. This was it. So he started writing out those review questions, and there were a lot of them. It became a time management issue. He had to work a little bit every day in writing those answers to those review questions, and the professor had designed it that way. The professor had essentially designed it so that if you, a student, finished filling out those review questions and all those vocabulary questions, and there were essay questions and short answer questions in this review section of the syllabus, if you did that, you would be working on the next exam preparation for the next exam a little bit every day. And that's what my student did. It became a time management issue, a discipline, where he worked on those review questions for that one class every single day leading up to the following exam. And he passed, did fine. So success kind of is very appealing. So he started doing similar approach to his other 2 courses that were his major courses, and he made an A on those 2 courses. So what was the difference? The difference was something called Locus of control. Locus is a Latin word for location. You can have an internal locus of control or external locus of control. Where is the control center in your life? Is it inside of you or is it outside of you? Individuals who have an external locus of control generally blame other people for their grades. So they made a D or an F. Generally, that student will blame the professor. The professor doesn't like me. I put in lots and lots of hours of studying. I still made an F. And that professor doesn't like me. He doesn't like the way I write. This is just the way I write. He doesn't like the way I write. Or there's no way I'm ever going to pass this test, no matter how hard I study, because that professor just doesn't like me. The professor is so unfair, so unjust. This course is unreasonable. That's blaming. That is an external locus of control. But when my student shifted the locus of control to be internal, where it's kind of like he put his hands on the steering wheel and said, I'm driving this car. I'm not going to let someone else drive my car. And he began to engage in this difficult task. He thought it was impossible. It was impossible for him to do those things, to prepare for an exam. But he did it. And he had a really positive outcome. The hard work paid off. So, as a recap for today's video, what is academic probation? Anytime your GPA falls below a 2.0. How do you get on to academic probation? Usually it's poor time management, and usually it's not correcting your study strategies soon enough in the semester. And how do you get off of academic probation? Usually it's time management and communication with the professor and changing how you study for specific courses and specific academic demands. So this is Ruth Bomar, your online academic coach. I want you to remember that you can learn to use your brain to learn anything you need to learn to reach your goals. Don't forget to put some comments or questions below, and I'll try to answer that in our next video.